It took me a little while longer to make this video than I thought, but happy Labor Day, everybody. I wanted to revisit music theory and improve upon the video I made a few days ago. So here it goes. I'm going to start by playing the notes that go with these chord progressions, and then I'm going to explain how the notes are constructed after that. Now I'm really good with patterns, and that's probably why I'm good with programming and music and things like that, because there's patterns in there. Even the personal development stuff has these patterns in there that I just find fascinating. Okay, and if you follow the pattern, then you will actually achieve the result. Like if it's in programming, if you're going to write some software and you follow a certain pattern, then you're going to get your finished product. It's going to work if you follow the pattern. Same with music. If you follow the patterns, you're going to see that those notes worked with those chord progressions I did at the beginning of this video. So somebody came up with a pattern to teach us how to play all the piano scales. Now I'm not sure where I read this, but this is my understanding of it, and it seems to work. Knowing how, of course, doesn't mean you'll do it. But if you do it, then you'll be a piano player. So let's start with the C major scale. With the C major scale, we have these notes. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we start on C again. And the space between the notes form a pattern. The distance between C and D is one key on the piano, a whole step. Between E and F is 0 keys on the piano because they're right next to each other. You see how between the C and the D you have a note, and between the E and the F you don't have a note? Okay, so the pattern of notes then for the major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that's good to know if you need to know how to play a major scale. There are various modes that scales can have, and the major scales mode is called Ionian. And there's 6 more that I want to mention. The second mode is called Dorian, and the pattern of notes for a Dorian scale is whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. The third mode is called Phrygian, and the pattern of notes for a Phrygian scale is half, whole, 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 half, whole, half. The fourth mode is called Lydian, and the pattern of notes for a Lydian scale is whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half. The fifth mode is called Mixolydian. The pattern of notes for a Mixolydian scale is whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. The sixth mode is called Aeolian, and the pattern of notes for an Aeolian scale is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. The seventh mode is called Locrian, and the pattern of notes for a Locrian scale is half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Now here's the crazy part. If you want to find out what all the modes are for a particular scale degree, you simply take the notes of the scale. For example, C. For the C major scale, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you flatten the 7th note of the C major scale, you get B flat. And the notes of the B flat scale, when starting on C, are the same notes as C Dorian. If you flatten the 6th note of the C major scale, you get A flat. And the notes of the A flat scale, when starting on C, are the same notes as C Phrygian. If you take the 5th note of the C major scale, you have G. And the notes of the G major scale, when starting on C, is C Lydian. If you take the 4th note of the C major scale, you have F, and the notes of the F major scale when starting on C is C Mixolydian. If you flatten the 3rd note of the C major scale, you get E flat, and the notes of the E flat major scale when starting on C is C Aeolian. If you flatten the 2nd note of the C major scale, you get D flat, and the notes of the D flat major scale when starting on C is C Locrian. And I'm going to show you how to figure out what the notes are of a major scale. In this case, we're going to use the major scale of D. We want to know what are the notes of the D major scale. So we start with the letters of the scale. We start with D, and then we just follow the alphabet. D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then we're back to D again, right? So now we want to make sure that follows the pattern of a major scale. And the pattern was whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So between D and E is a whole step. That's right, D, D sharp, E. Between E and F is supposed to be a whole step. So we got to put an F, we got to add a sharp here. So we have between E and F, it's a whole step. E, F, F sharp. Now between F sharp and G is supposed to be a half step, and that's right. Between G and A is supposed to be a whole step, and that's right. Between A and B is supposed to be a whole step, and it is. And between B and C it's supposed to be a whole step, so we need to add a sharp onto this C. So between B and C sharp is a whole step. And then between C sharp and D is a half step. So there you have it. Those are the notes of the D major scale. Cool. So what if we wanted to know what the D Dorian scale is? The notes of the C major scale when starting on D are the same notes as D Dorian. So let's test the pattern out. It's supposed to be whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. So between D and E is a whole step. That's right. Between E and F is a half step. Between F and G is a whole step. Between G and A is a whole step. Between A and B is a whole step. Between B and C is a half step, and between C and D is a whole step. That is the D Dorian scale. Let's say we want to figure out what the notes of the B major scale are. So we just follow the letters of the alphabet. So we have B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then we're back to B again. So let's just see that it fits the pattern of a major scale. Between B and C is supposed to be a whole step. So that means we need to sharpen this C, so between B and C sharp is a whole step. And then we do another whole step between C sharp and D, so this needs to be sharpened. So between C sharp and D sharp is a whole step. Between D sharp and E is a half step, so that's right. Between E and F is supposed to be a whole step, so we put a sharp on here. So between E and F sharp is a whole step. Between F sharp and G is supposed to be a whole step, so we add a sharp on here. So between F sharp and G sharp is a whole step. And between G sharp and A is supposed to be a whole step. And we really need to be changing this to B flat, so that between G sharp and B flat is a whole step, and between B flat and B is a half step. So that follows the major scale. So to get the B Dorian scale, all you have to do is start with the second note of the B major scale. I'm going to fill that in. So we start with C sharp, and then we have D sharp, and then we have E, and then we have F sharp, then we have G sharp, and then we have B flat, and we have B. And then we just check to see, let's just go like this, check to see this is the pattern we should have of the Dorian scale. It should be whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. And we just take a quick check. Take a quick check and see if it checks out. So from C sharp to D sharp, that's a whole step. From D sharp to E, that's a half step. From E to F sharp, that's a whole step. From F sharp to G sharp, that's a whole step. From G sharp to B flat, that is a whole step. And from B flat to B, that is a half step. And from B to C sharp is a whole step. So it checks out. Excellent. So now you know how to construct all the major scales in 7 of their modes. All you have to do is search around YouTube for a backing track for whatever you're trying to practice, and before too long, you're going to become a master musician. If you'd like to learn some things about technology, mindset, and music, sign up to do AI things at paulgoulart.com, and have a great day.